Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Meryl Fatemi. Getting right back into it here, I wanted to kind of mesh these two topics into one segment, but obviously, I honestly did not think I was going to be talking about the Pistons and Knicks, and I didn't ramble. It was just there's a lot to get into with that series. It's one of the most anticipated series, not only in the Eastern Conference, with how loaded the Western Conference is as well. This is in competition with those series. Just in kind of, it feels like a little bit of old school basketball with that one. But I'm going to leave it at that. The 4 and 5 matchup at the moment with the Pacers and the Bucks is going to be it's just going to be a flat out outstanding series. The Pacers are both teams right now, honestly, being the hottest teams in the NBA. Starting with the Pacers, 8-2 in their last 10. Obviously, a very deep team. One of the teams in the NBA that have obviously going on an Eastern Conference Finals run last season, holding a lot of their same core guys with Tyrese Haliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, T.J. McConnell. I just named 6 guys off the bat. Benedict Mathurin, just holding a lot of their key guys that they had last season. A very young core, similar to the Pistons, but imagine the Pistons a year from now. That's very similar, and that's how the Pacers are this year. And differently than the Pistons, they're more of an offensive team. They're more young generation. They're more in today's age with how offense heavy they are, reminding me a little bit of the Cleveland Cavaliers of this season in the regular season with how they shoot the 3 ball, with how offensive heavy they are. The Pacers match up in a similar way. Pacers, obviously, I mentioned Tyrese Haliburton, more of a facilitating point guard than a shooting guard. Not a shooting guard, but than a shooting threat, offensive threat, scoring threat. But when Haliburton scores 20 plus points in games, the Pacers are 24-3, and honestly, one of the most dangerous teams in the league when Haliburton can get it going from the offensive end. His problem is Haliburton has just not shot the ball as well as he'd liked. It's been players like Nembhard. It's been the guys around him, and he's kind of realized that in a way, and become more of a floor general than that offensive threat shooting the basketball. He has been injured a couple times, so it's not 100% his fault. It's just how things have lined up this season with how it's just unfortunate how he's been it's just unfortunate how he's been shooting. But like I mentioned, when he scores 20 plus points, this team is 24-3, and that's all you need to know. It's similar numbers to how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays with. I don't even know how to compare it, honestly, because there's not very many floor generals in this league anymore that when they score a lot, they can still perform like this. They don't score 20 plus points 27 games. You just don't see it from players you don't see players like Haliburton in today's age when their team still has so much success like the Pacers have. They're just incredibly unique and so hard to scheme and plan for and do film on. It's difficult to plan for them. But that's exactly the test that the Milwaukee Bucks have this season. Obviously, winning the NBA championship in 2021 with Giannis, Jrue Holiday, and Chris Middleton. But this is just a completely different team now. Jrue Holiday, obviously, in Boston now. Chris Middleton in Washington, I believe. Yeah, he's now in Washington. But Giannis is still performing as one of the best players in the NBA. Still an MVP candidate, averaging 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists in these last 15 games. On a 7-game win streak at the moment. They're still playing unbelievable basketball. The Milwaukee Bucks are still one of the best teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, but can be competitive with anybody in the NBA. Not only with their experience, with good head coaching. I say that not knowing the head coach off the top of my head. I apologize. But a key factor for this series is going to be Damian Lillard. The health of Damian Lillard is paramount to the success that this team can have come playoff time. When this series starts, that Damian Lillard will have a week. We'll have until this series kicks off at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. It's the first game of the playoffs. But the Bucks are optimistic that Lillard can return in these playoffs. It's just the question is when. He does have an exam coming up to determine his clearance for the postseason. It's just difficult to look out to predict blood clots. Blood clots are just one of those. It's a serious injury. Say he does end up. It's a temporary thing, and when found, if it's left lingering, if it's ignored, it can become a permanent issue, and it can be obviously blood clot in a major artery can cause a heart attack, which can leave permanent damage, if not death. That's all that needs to be said. Death, permanent injury is not something you want to risk for the sake of a basketball game, even though it is your occupation. It's like anybody's job. You just don't do that. But he has been taking some blood thinners. He's been trying to work through it. He's been trying to prioritize his health, work on his diet. We don't know exactly the conditions and what's really caused blood clot issues. We've seen it with Wembanyama. In the most recent example, we saw with Chris Bosh forcing him to retire over a decade ago, or almost a decade ago. I don't think it was past 2015. I think it was 2018 when Chris Bosh retired. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Chris Bosh obviously being the most famous example of this. Wembanyama right now. And about a few months ago with the San Antonio Spurs out indefinitely. And now it's Damian Lillard's turn to deal with that. Another important aspect of this game, though, will be the battle of benches. Right off the bat, the Pacers hold this one. I know the numbers say it's a little bit closer, but I think with how deep the Pacers can be, with the Pacers' ability to go 7 deep to score double figures, 10 plus points, seven players at the same time in one game can score 10 plus points. That ability is just such a game changer come playoff time. A lot of teams like to go 8-man deep, 8-man rotation, kind of try and shorten up their rotations. But the Pacers and utilize their endurance and overall play, long-term play, short-term play, used to try to maximize that short-term play. But the ability to have depth maximizes the long-term. Say a series can go 7 games. Multiple series go 7 games. We saw it with the Boston Celtics when they played the Golden State Warriors in 2022, when they went 7 games against the Miami Heat. I'm trying to think back to that playoff run. They went 7 games against Milwaukee. I know they swept Brooklyn. They went 7 games against Milwaukee, and then they went back-to-back 7 games with Miami that year, and then ultimately 6 games with Golden State. We saw they had a 2-1 lead. They lost Game 4, obviously, in Boston, and it's been reported since that when Game 5 hit, that this team just really lost its legs, really lost its endurance. It wasn't the same team. I'm just comparing. I'm just saying, when you have a deep rotation, it's much more. It just comes in handy in the long term. When games get long, when series go longer, when games come down to the wire, when games go into overtime, especially when you're playing almost every 2 days or so in the first couple of rounds, that's just the benefit of having a deep rotation, and that's what the Pacers have. On the Bucks side, it's going to be easy. It's going to be not easy. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks bench can go up against the Pacers. Obviously, it's a little bit thinner. They do still have Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., Pat Connaughton, obviously having a massive game this past week or yesterday against the Detroit Pistons, going off for 43 points. But um, yeah, it's the play. It's going to be the play of it's going to be the battle of benches for these two teams and how they square off in the playoffs. It's when their starters are sitting, when the Giannis's of the world are sitting, when um Damian Lillard, if he can play, is sitting on the bench. How will the Bucks bench respond to that? And will it be enough to hold off a Pacers squad? I personally think the Pacers will take this series probably in about 6 games or so. I would say 5 or 6 probably. I think the Bucks can take 2 of these games. Um, but it's just gonna be interesting to see. Giannis has been playing better down the stretch here, but obviously it's going, like I mentioned, it's just going to be. I think the battle of benches is going to be the key difference in this series. Um, I had the stat here. Give me one moment. In the season series, the Bucks hold the lead 3-1. I know it is a 3-1 lead, and that is seriously massive in terms of how this series can play out. The only game that the Pacers have won in this series, in the regular season series, was a 1-point victory for them, actually in March. But yeah, I in that case, I wouldn't be shocked if this series goes 6 games. I'm still picking the Pacers to win in 6, but we'll see how that all plays out. Um, I'm gonna take another short break. When we come back, we're gonna take a look at the Western Conference. We've spent about 20 minutes now looking at the East. We're gonna switch gears over to the West. Look at the Western Conference playoffs at the moment. Give a little bit of a prediction of the 2 series over there that are catching my eye. We're going to take a short break and take a look at that. Be right back, guys.